welcome to another edition of Roadhouse Live. We are live. Today is November 28th. Only a couple of more days left in the month. And we got a full house today. We got a full house, and I'm so happy, Benda. I'm so happy because we got Sonny, we got Stonkington, we got you, we got me, we got the whole team.
We got everybody.
Squad. We have the whole squad all here this morning.
Got them all.
Very exciting. So I don't know. I don't know what to say about the price action yesterday or the flow yesterday or the anything yesterday. The overnight was like, oh, let's make a dip. And it's like, let's buy that dip after we do that dip. Then we're like, okay, let's get into pre-market. Let's do another dip below that dip and buy that back up into the dip. So
I'll tell you, yesterday I was sitting at the dealership and watching they had I don't know what it was, Bloomberg or MSNBC or something on, whatever they had on, and they were talking about the Black Friday numbers, and at least the numbers they flashed on the screen didn't look so bad.
No, there was a headline.
People were still buying shit.
Yeah, people be buying shit. That's what they do.
Yep.
That's what they do. That's what we do. I think that's what got so weird to me as far as, the Fed and what they were doing. It's like, we are a consumer-based economy. We buy shit, we do shit, and you're intentionally trying to destroy shit. It's like the whole thing was just counterintuitive all the way through. The reality is we are where we are. We're close enough to all-time highs to be able to say, okay, well, all right, so here we are. Corporate earnings weren't that bad. Keep on spending. Inflation keeps on pushing lower. That's the game. That's where we are. So the question is what happens next? Do you know what happens next?
We go to the right.
Yeah, I don't. Honestly, I really, really don't. I would like to say we continue to plow higher. And when you have dips last night and even pre-market this morning, and there's a willingness to buy them up, provide structure to the chart, it kind of says like, hey, we grind higher. Right now, the volume, once again, is just very, very low. Yesterday was super low. And we're back into the game as far as, okay, so they can move this whatever direction they want. Sonny actually sent me an interesting little tidbit as far as, the path of least resistance at this point is to the upside, and with volume being low, that kind of plays into the overall theme and narrative. Okay, so you take Santa Claus rally, you take the consumer still spending, you take, everything is pointing to where we potentially could. What's bothersome though, Bender, is when we get these little exacerbated sells, and when we get some of the flow that's like, okay, I don't like the way that looks. I don't like that they're buying puts on Microsoft and Adobe. That's usually not a good sign. But what they're not doing at this point are buying puts on Apple. They're not. So it kind of leads me into this world we talked about a while ago as far as the VIX, and we'll use UVXY for just specific example here, where and how it can be operating. We're close to breaking 10 to the downside on it. Maybe we get 850 to the down, maybe somewhere in there. Dollar, I was very clear in saying that I thought that the best days as far as the dollar being up were behind us, and we're trading down again. I believe that the dollar comes down into that 101, 100 flat level before it's all said and done, and there's a really meaningful move back the other way. Chart wise, I don't know, man. You can work through this thing, and it's losing some of its overall identity, in my opinion. The chart is, as far as it being really, really bullish. The past couple of sessions have chopped it up and make it a mess. I know yesterday there were several times I was just like, I don't know how to trade this. It's like, because yesterday there were a couple of times Apple looked like it was going to fire, SQQQ looked like it was going to fire, and you had rising wedge / bear flags on SPY and Q. We popped and then we dropped, And Apple was a big piece of that sell-off on the fake rip. So coming into today, I have to remind myself that my expectations need to be extremely low for pretty much everything. Just low, just lower the bar on all fronts. You get a couple of points, you take them. You get a nice little move, you take it. I don't know how much continuation is available unless we can get up and rip. Let's just call it yesterday's highs. Maybe we can skedaddle. Otherwise, it just feels very range bound, very, nobody's in a hurry to really get anywhere. So you tell me, buddy, what do you got?
All right. Yeah, let's take a look at this. So, yesterday, obviously I wasn't here, but going back and just kind of reviewing, ultimately it really went nowhere, right? You had, going back to 27th. Yeah. I mean, midnight low, 45.52 to 45.70 was the high. So you had 18 points of range, right? Now, going into the day yesterday, we talked a little bit about how on the 60-minute, it was looking like, this was kind of set up for potential seeking lower, right? And here we are lower than yesterday at midnight. So for now, when I look at this, it's like I would like to see some of these levels get taken today, potentially into tomorrow, and then finish the week strong. That's what I'd like to see. As far as kind of levels to call out, what really stands out, we still have 4,500 down here. Obviously, that's a key level. We have a new week opening gap right in here, 45.2375 to 45.2675. So I'd like to see it come down another 20 points or so, 20, 30 points, and come back into this area. And then, like I said, finish the week strong. We've got relative equal highs here at 45.70. If I go into a 15-minute, you can see, so this becomes a magnet, right? At some point, I expect that this gets taken. Again, may not be today, but when we do start pushing, when you get that market structure shift, and we start pushing up, that becomes a target. I think 45.74, becomes a target. And then obviously this wick high up here to 45.8075. But, this kind of action yesterday is the kind of stuff that I'm like, yeah, I don't want to trade. And I probably wouldn't have done a whole lot yesterday. The only thing that really makes a whole lot of sense is this 15-minute fair value gap. You had these candles kind of trade down into the bottom. You can see the wicks breaking below, but the bodies of the candles held above it. And in that scenario, it's like, okay, I'm looking for the next move to be a pop higher. And you had right here, you had relative equal highs. So formed that relative equal high, traded down, back into this candle right here. There was a little volume imbalance down in here that I had marked out, and then push back up, but really choppy. I want to point out, if I take this 15-minute fair value gap right here, and I just kind of pull this over, you can see how that acts as support, breaks through, acts as resistance, right? And so at least currently, the name of the game is broke below that, traded back up into a fair value gap. This volume imbalance right in here was sitting in here. So it filled that and then broke lower, right? So at this point, until we can establish support, above that 45.60 area, which is only 6 up from here, then you could start to see potential push higher. I would be looking for, if throw this on here right here. If it can take 45, 60 half, I would look for a reaction there, kind of see what you get, right? If it just kind of wicks up and then pulls back below, it may just have been taking these stops right in here. But if you can trade above that and put that nice candle in, leave a fair value gap behind that it trades into, then you can look for 45, 64, 75. Again, see what kind of reaction you get there. Make sure it's not just taking stops and then pulls right back down. Outside of that, I think kind of the same sort of plan at 45, 45, 75. If it breaks below that, see what kind of reaction you get. If it looks like gets that nice candle below, trades back up into a fair value gap, then you can try to take that short to 45.37 and potentially into this new week opening gap. See if we got anything here on the 5 minute. I mean, 5 minute kind of tells the same story, right? You had these candles down, trade up into it, down lower. Right now, trading up into this fair value gap right here. And you can see these candles, when you look at the bodies of these candles and you see kind of flat top right here, it's like, that's not an accident. So until you get, a 5 minute candle body above that, you get a 5 minute candle, the body closes above that, it'll probably at least fill this, potentially up here to 45.58. That's about it here on the ES. You mentioned the dollar. I was just kind of looking over here. This is a daily chart. Had these highs here get taken. It just wicked just barely above and then started to push down. We are in sort of that value range area, golden ratio in between 50%, 61.8%. So I would not be surprised to see, some sort of bounce in here on the dollar. I would look for that. Again, see what kind of reaction you get. This is that little pullback here on the daily before going up and taking those highs. Once it breaches that, see what kind of reaction it provides. If you get, that kind of action on the dollar where it takes this out, but then pushes back above and starts pushing to the upside, then I would look for, this scenario to play out on the ES where we come down and tickle some of these areas below, scare some folks, take some stops, and then gives us that potential to finish strong.
Yeah, it's fairly obvious that there's a lot of gamesmanship within the overnight action, the action in the last hour of the day. It's much more extreme now, and I think maybe it just goes back to the lack of volume, be it them being able to move the pricing around. And they're able to do it like literally whenever they want. They can make whatever candle happen, and there's not a lot of there's just not a lot.
Barring any serious news, right? I'm not expecting any meaningful downside, right? I think any downside or pullback that is really intended just to, grab liquidity. I'm not expecting anything major. I don't think it's going to be, at least for now, I don't think it'll be anything sustained. I think, you got 4,552 points down from here, and on any sort of sell, if it does clear that into this, 44.95 or something like that, I would expect that to find support. I wouldn't be surprised if it, stalls stops, something like that, right in here in that 45.20 area. 45.19, maybe they take this right here and then buy it back up from there. That's kind of, I mean, you know, when I'm looking at the chart, that's just kind of the feel that I get looking at this, is that we'll probably go take some of this stuff, ideally. Last thing, Bitcoin chart. Obviously, still looking at the weekly here for you crypto players. Looking at the weekly, we're banging our head right up against this weekly fair value gap. We've had a couple wicks above, but have not been able to sustain above 38K. We talked about this 37,400. If this can become support in here, then it can see that, I think, explosive move, another explosive move back over, potentially over 40K. But right now you can see it's just kind of, maybe it's just consolidating before that next move higher. I think kind of along the same lines as the ES. I don't know that, I'm not really expecting any crazy move down. Doesn't mean it won't happen, but I think it wants 40,000. That's always, the question is always from where. So we'll see, but keep an eye on it, between say 35 and 38. And, again, if it can sustain above 38, look at your Riot, Mara, those kinds of names, because they can be real. They can move. They can move fast. I think that's about all I got.
Very nice. Thank you, Bender. Mm-hmm. Who do we got? We got Sunny. Do we have Mr. Sunshine?
Mr. Sunshine is here.
Very nice.
I'll make it quick. Running a little late. So I talked about this a couple of times in the past few months about Amazon delivery business. It's going to go big because they're allowing third-party shippers to use their service. So official headline came out today. FedEx overtakes UPS and FedEx to become the biggest delivery giant in the US. And this definitely doesn't help UPS and FedEx scenario going forward, especially after those huge union contracts they signed. It was like, a 50% wage increase and shit like that. Oil prices being high and less business. I will definitely be looking into some longer-term puts in both UPS and FedEx. There was news out about a U.S. court ruling. It came out after hours yesterday, rejecting the massive class action lawsuit over Forever Chemicals. So the companies that were named in the lawsuit were 3M, DuPont, Corteva, CTVA, and CC. Adobe Figma deal likely to result in substantial lessening of competition in the UK and EU. So they're doing the job of what FTC couldn't do. So Europe and UK regulators are doing it for them, because there's less lawsuits out there, by the companies against the decisions that FTC makes in the US. So definitely look for a little bump in Adobe if this deal gets blocked. BA got some nice upgrades. They're looking to see, headline is they're looking at about 25% jump in stock in 2024. So a couple of people came out with upgrades on BA to 275. Virgin Atlantic, and this sounded like a good headline. Like they were like, hey, we've done the flight from London to New York using sustainable fuel. It's 70% less carbon. It's made from used cooking oil and blah, 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 blah. And the footnote says, yeah, but it's 3 to 5 times more expensive.
Huh.
And I'm like, yeah, they can make a couple of flights for the hippies to go across if they want to and pay extra. So yeah, it's like there's more and more push. They're like, they want 10% of the airlines to use sustainable fuel by 2030 in Europe. GM is cutting back on their self-driving unit crews after an accident, a couple of accidents, and a mess in San Francisco. So they've halted most of it, going back to the drawing board and see what the issues are, and then come back out. Told Shaden already posted his headline about the oil drop. The OPEC meeting maybe getting delayed. They're trying to figure out the output in Africa and how to control that and how it's going to go forward. Dipped, recovered, and it's back to where it was for now. Hedge fund Anson is looking to build up their portfolio in Twilio and push them to explore sale, TWLO. So watch for flow in that. And the big one was RNA, Avidity Biosciences. They got a collaboration deal with BMY for utilizing their proprietary platform technology, potential cumulative payments of up to $2.3 billion. They're also going to buy the RNA stock. It's 788. And it got a nice move this morning. I'll be watching that, see if I can do a couple of scalps on that. That's about it.
Very nice. Stocks, what you got for us, buddy?
All right, I'm ready. Let's get into it. We got some charts. We got some smash. Well, not really new smash, but let's see. Get the chart going here. Let's see. You guys seen? No, not yet. I see Bender's on mute.
Benda?
He's in charge of grabbing my chart. I'm attempting to share. No, maybe not.
Might have to just talk through it.
All right, let's take a look at the NASDAQ. I'll drop these in the room, and then we'll talk through them here. Let's see. All right, so big seek and destroy looking potential here on the NASDAQ. They left these stops down at 15,943. That basically was right near yesterday's low, and then we ran it. Let me post this to the room. Kind of looks like another a flag. I adjusted the trend line where we tried to pop the flag yesterday and then didn't hold above it. That gave us run to the upside when we did do that break. Let's see. All right, so there's NASDAQ. So yeah, that you can see that 15,943 below, and then above I'll be watching that 16,100 above. You can see it's kind of like relatively cool highs up there. Maybe even a little bit lower based on yesterday's high. You could also watch that, keep an eye on that, which would be only 11 down from that 16.
Oh, there you go. We got a chart up.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, there you go. Yeah, so I'm kind of looking at this like potential bull pennant. You know, yesterday I had the trend line looking like this kind of thing. And so we popped it and failed the retest. So now I've kind of got it here for this pennant. And then, yeah, we would see if we push down, be interested to see what, you know, our usual thing when we break a key level. Is it break and pause because we wanted to stop some people out, or do we get a strong push continuing to the downside? So below, that's going to be this 15,943 on watch on the NASDAQ. So we'll see what we get. You know, maybe we break this and then we can go and grab some of these stops up above, put in this big pennant. So we'll see what we get. Russell, again, really interesting setup coming into the day. We've got this trend line. We kind of did an overshoot at the open yesterday and then right back up. And then we know we've got a ton of stops sitting up there, 18,116.7. That's going to be a target that I'll be looking for any opportunities to go long. And then we have our kind of box that has been just kind of our range box. We kind of attempted to get out of torture zone yesterday and right back down. And then similar, you know, as Bender was noting, looking at the candle bodies, it's like you can see all these, you know, we had some wicks below, but all the candle bodies are closing above this, you know, 1797 area, which will be important. But this is kind of an ascending triangle following a push up in most cases will continue to the upside, which is why I'm kind of leaning more bullish over here on the Russell. So we'll see what we get over there. The other one I thought looked like an interesting setup going into today was Tesla. You could see this range. There's some key levels stuck in here. So once somebody gets caught on the right side, on the wrong side, whether it's bears or bulls, we could get a nice move just based on this range we've been stuck in. So above, I'm going to be watching this 237.70, and then below, you can see this is a key level, 231.50. And if we zoom out, it's like these have been in play before. You know, we got a rejection there, we got bounce here, and then even before this big run up, it's like these levels have still been in play, 237.70, and then rejecting 231.50. So going to keep an eye over here on Tesla, see what we get. And then the other one was going to be AMD. So kind of similar. We've got some key levels we've been banging around inside. Below, I'm going to be watching this 121.60. Rejection, resistance, resistance, resistance. Holding above it. We bounced off it once so far. And then above, I'm going to be checking out this, keeping an eye on this 123.95. We can see it's kind of been an important one over here as well. Some candle bodies up against it, and then resistance, resistance. So just going to kind of see what we get over there on AMD. And otherwise, I'll just be kind of reading flow and watching, calling levels in the room. And that's it. Well, is everybody gone? I guess that's it. We will catch you guys in the room in a few.